You earn $28,000 a year. After tax, that is approximately $1,960 a month landing in your account. After rent, utilities, food, transport, and your phone contract, you have roughly 340 left. 340 euros. That is the number every financial decision you make this month will come from. Not the 28,000, not the 1,960, the 340. That is the actual territory of your financial life right now. Not the gross salary figure you tell people at parties, the 340, sitting in a current account, waiting to either become something or disappear into the ordinary cost of being alive for another 30 days. This is where most of Europe actually lives, not in the income brackets that get discussed in investment forums or career podcasts. Here, salary is not destiny, but it is context, and context shapes what is possible in ways that are real and worth naming honestly rather than softening into motivation. What you can build at 28,000 is structurally different from what you can build at 65,000. Not because you are worth less or working less hard. Often the opposite is true, but because the arithmetic of margin, of the gap between income and fixed costs, is different at every level, and margin is where everything that matters financially is built. This video is not about how to earn more. There are 1,000 videos that will tell you to negotiate harder, skill up faster, job hop more strategically. All of that advice is real, and most of it is useful. This video is about something different. It is about what is actually available to you, financially, psychologically, structurally, at your exact salary level right now, and what changes, specifically and concretely, at each level above it. Level 1, 18,000 to 28,000 per year you are working. Fully employed, showing up, contributing, doing the thing, and you are one unexpected expense away from a problem you cannot easily solve. Not a catastrophe, just a problem, a car repair, a dental emergency, a month where the boiler breaks and the landlord takes 3 weeks to fix it, and you have to buy electric heaters that run on electricity you are now paying for twice. Any of these things, arriving without warning in a month where the 340 is already committed, creates a situation that requires from next month, which makes next month harder, which can create a cycle that takes several months to exit. You develop financial skills at this level that people who earn more never need to acquire. How to stretch a grocery budget without the output feeling like deprivation. How to calculate whether an opportunity, a social event, a trip, a professional development course is worth the cost in the specific context of your current margin. How to absorb small financial shocks without panic, because you have absorbed enough of them that the process is familiar. These are not skills you chose to develop. They were given to you by the constraints of this level, and here is something worth knowing about them. They are more useful at every level above this than almost anything else you could have learned here. The person who built financial discipline under genuine pressure carries something that the person who was always comfortable has almost never been tested for. The 340 is a constraint. It is also, for the people who learn to work inside it deliberately rather than reactively, a teacher. Level 2, 28,000 to 45,000 per year. Something changes at this level. Not dramatically. The change is not a transformation, not a sudden sense of arrival. It is more like the easing of a pressure you had become so accustomed to that you stopped noticing it until it began to lift. You can start a savings account that does not empty itself every time something goes wrong. You can absorb a car repair without restructuring the rest of the month. You can say yes to a weekend away without doing the specific arithmetic that level 1 required before every discretionary decision. The danger at this level is so well documented and so consistently ignored that it deserves to be named plainly: lifestyle inflation. The almost automatic expansion of spending to match a raise that was supposed to create breathing room, a slightly better apartment because you have finally earned the right to live somewhere you actually like. A slightly newer car, because the old one is fine, but this one is not unreasonable at your new income. Better restaurants, better versions of things you already had. The gradual accumulation of a life that costs exactly as much as you now earn. The people who build something at this level, who convert a salary increase into a structural improvement in their financial position, rather than a structural improvement in their lifestyle, are the ones who made one specific decision when the rise arrived. They kept living at the cost of the previous level and directed the difference somewhere it could grow. That decision is not glamorous. Nobody posts about it. It does not produce visible signals of progress. It produces over time a financial foundation that becomes the basis of every level that follows. Level 3, 45,000 to 70,000 per year. You are, by most European benchmarks, doing well. Your salary sits in the upper half of the income distribution in every major European economy. You are objectively earning more than most people around you. And yet, and this is the observation, that most people at this this level find quietly disturbing when they sit with it, you probably know people who earn significantly less than you and seem more financially settled, more relaxed about money, more able to absorb disruption without visible stress. This observation is not an accident. It is the direct result of something systematic and almost universal at this income level. The lifestyle has expanded to meet, and in some cases exceed the income, and the expansion happened gradually enough that each individual upgrade felt completely reasonable at the time it was made. At $55,000, if you have upgraded your apartment to match your income, financed a car that reflects your professional status, taken holidays that you have now established as the standard for your life, and built a wardrobe and a social life that operate at this level, you may have less genuine financial freedom than someone earning $35,000 who never touched any of those defaults. Salary without intentionality is not wealth. It is just a higher stakes version of the same financial position, relocated to a more expensive postcode and attended by more convincing reasons why the spending is justified. Level 4, $70,000 to $120,000 per year. You are in the top 10% of earners in almost every European country. This is a fact that will surprise a significant proportion of people currently earning it, because the top 10% does not feel the way it sounds from the outside. It does not feel like the top 10%. It feels like everyone around you earns approximately the same, because the social environments that form at this income level are populated by people who also earn approximately this amount, and the lifestyle that develops in those environments becomes the invisible standard against which sufficiency is measured. At $90,000, with consistent investment habits established over several years, your portfolio begins to produce meaningful annual growth. A 7% year on a portfolio built to $80,000 generates $5,600 without any additional contribution, without any additional effort, without any negotiation or performance review or additional hour of work. The money is beginning to participate in its own growth, not at the speed that makes the participation obvious yet, that comes later, but the mechanism has engaged. And the mechanism, once engaged and left uninterrupted, will eventually outpace the salary that built it. This is the level where the divergence between people who kept the gap open and people who spent every raise before it arrived becomes financially visible for the first time. The gap that was building quietly for years begins to manifest in numbers that are impossible to ignore. Level 5, $120,000 to $200,000 per year. The primary financial challenge at this level is no longer earning. It is deciding, and deciding, it turns out, is harder than earning in ways that nobody prepares you for. How much is enough to spend without undermining the accumulation that makes this level meaningful? Which of the lifestyle upgrades that are now financially available are genuinely worth what they cost in compounding terms, and which are simply expensive because they can be? How do you maintain the discipline that built the income when the income has grown large enough that the discipline feels optional? The tax situation at this level requires active management for the first time. You are no longer someone who files a return. You are someone who needs a strategy about pension contributions, about investment structures, about the most efficient way to build wealth inside a tax system that was not designed with your optimization in mind. The people who build generational wealth at this income level are not the ones who earn the most within it. They are the ones who systematize the most important decision the fastest. When the income grows, the gap grows with it. The lifestyle does not follow the salary. The gap follows the salary. And the gap, invested consistently over time, becomes the wealth that the salary alone could never produce. Level 6, $200,000 and above per year. You are in a category that contains a small enough percentage of the populace that the normal financial advice, save 20%, invest in index funds, avoid lifestyle inflation, is still correct but no longer sufficient. At this income level, the marginal tax rate in most European countries means that the question is not just how much to save, but how to structure what you save. Pension vehicles, investment companies, family trust structures, property held in the most efficient legal form. These are not optional sophistications for people at this level. They are the difference between building wealth and building a tax bill. The other thing that happens at this level, which almost nobody discusses because it is uncomfortable to name, the income becomes a ceiling in a way it was not before. The lifestyle required to maintain this income level, the professional costs, the social expectations, the infrastructure of a life operating at this salary becomes expensive to dismantle even when you want to. The golden handcuff is real, and it is tightest at exactly the level where you have the most options. The people who navigate this level with the most financial freedom are the ones who kept the gap widened enough for long enough that they could afford to leave the salary behind because they had built something that did not require it. The trap. The trap has a name. It is a common name. You have heard it before. You will hear it again after this video, and hearing it does almost nothing to protect you from it because the trap operates through a mechanism that knowledge alone cannot interrupt. The trap is called lifestyle inflation, but calling it that makes it sound like a character flaw, a failure of discipline, a problem for people who are not sufficiently careful or intentional. It is none of those things. It is a structural feature of how income growth works when it is not actively managed. Here is the mechanism. Your salary increases by $8,000 a year. The increase feels significant. It is significant. And after months or years of earning less than you felt you were worth, it also feels like permission. Permission to live at the level your income now supports. Permission to stop deferring the things you have been deferring. Permission to finally have the apartment, the car, the version of your life that reflects what you have built. The upgrades happen one at a time, each one reasonable in isolation. A better apartment because the old one was genuinely too small. A car that is not luxury, but is not the one you drove in your mid-20s either. Holidays that cost more than they used to because you now travel differently than you did then. A wardrobe that matches the professional context you operate in. None of these is wrong. Every one of them made sense at the moment it was decided. The problem is that taken together, across the full 8,000 of the raise, they have absorbed the entire increase. The gap between income and spending has not changed. The anxiety about money has not changed. The account at the end of the month looks almost identical to the account at the end of the month before the raise. And 6 months later, the thought begins again. If I could just earn a bit more, things would finally feel different. They will not feel different. Not until the gap is protected rather than spent. Not until the raise is directed somewhere before the lifestyle can absorb it. Not until the decision about what enough looks like is made in advance of the money arriving, rather than in the moment when the money is present and every reasonable instinct is pointing towards spending it. The people who escape this trap are not more disciplined than you. They made one structural decision. They automated the gap. The moment the raise arrived, a percentage of it moved automatically to an investment account before they could see it, spend it, or develop a reasonable argument for why they deserved it. The gap was protected before the lifestyle could find it. That is the entire mechanism of escape. The philosophical close. Your salary number is not your financial identity. It is your starting material. The same income in two different hands with two different relationships to the gap produces two financial lives that are almost unrecognizable from each other after a decade. One is a story of income consumed and nothing accumulated, not through failure, not through recklessness, just through the ordinary gravity of lifestyle expansion unchecked. The other is a story of income, partially redirected, quietly and consistently, towards something that compounds. The $340 you have left at the end of this month is not a depressing number. It is a real number, more honest than the gross salary, more relevant than the tax bracket. It is the actual territory you are working with, what you do with it, whether it becomes the seed of something that grows or the last of something that disappears, is the only financial decision that is actually in front of you right now. Not the investment strategy, not the career move, not the long-term plan, just 340. And the question of whether it is the start of a direction or just the end of another month. The people who build real financial lives from ordinary salaries do not do it by earning extraordinary amounts. They do it by treating ordinary amounts with extraordinary seriousness, by deciding in months when it does not feel significant that the 340 means something. A ceiling holds everything in. A foundation lets you build above it. The salary is the same. The decision about which one it is, that has always been yours. Curious about how much wealth different professions can build? Subscribe now and join us as we explore the income, lifestyle, and net worth behind the world's most fascinating careers.